Okay, today is going to be another day of the video blog. We've already got started, unfortunately. I didn't have the camera running, but the cosmic characters were here and we were very busy. We had a marathon poetry session, slam poetry, and I'm terribly sorry. I don't have another cameraman. And sometimes some of the poetry happens when I'm in the shower, and even then, the camera's not waterproof. But the current topic, and it seems to be recurring, is aberration. Now, the anthropologist Carlos Castaneda, who wrote a number of books in the late 1960s, 1970s, talked about aberrations as personality disorders. From the perspective of acting, these are very interesting characters to watch. But if you think of Dr. Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, interesting to watch, but you wouldn't want him sleeping next to you in your bed. And the question comes about because we've got so many mental maps that are being batted around by not only psychology, but the channeled beings, and people go into trance and, another personality comes through. Jane Roberts was famous in about 1975 with her series of books based upon the channeled entity known as Seth. Seth Speaks, for example, was one of those books. But there are plenty of channelers on YouTube, and they bring in various personalities that they can connect to. Where are we going with this? Well, it's just simply the fact that if the camera's not on, and I've got one of these aberrant personalities who has come uninvited and has decided to take an extended visit. The color seems bad today. It seems washed out. You know what I mean by washed out color? I'm looking at the camera and it just looks like it needs the intensity of the color turned up. That's what washed out is, the lack of intensity of color. Where are we going here? Sippy cup. A sip happens. Now, maybe okay, I'm not quite done. I'm wearing the NBA champion Toronto Raptors hat. How long they're going to remain champions, no one knows, but historically, they will be known as a team that has won the championship. Everyone remembers how long it took the Chicago Cubs to leave the perennial basement and capture the World Series. Now, and again, this one feels very slow. It feels washed out to us. If you had seen the incredible amount of creativity this morning, as we did, and then I turned on the camera, I'm really disappointed, folks. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed I don't have a body cam that's waterproof, so you could watch me 24 hours a day. And it's not really watching me because you have to know what's going on inside the mind. Is it genius? It's not my mind. It's not my mind. It's not my mind. Why do I say that? Because I don't want it. Carlos Castaneda, getting back to the anthropologist who studied shamanism, said that the human mind is, was it a gift? It was given to humans by what he called the parasite. He said it was a morose thing. Morose means something that is never happy, never grateful, never joyful. The moroseness. I've also thought a little bit about the old poet, writer, Edgar Allan Poe, who came up with these horror stories. There are so many other things that we touched on this morning. I did a episode of Yellow is the Color, which is an ongoing poetry series about yellow. It seems like when I do this is just going to be like, not even good. It's going to be so shitty. But the topic today is aberration, which Carlos Castaneda was given lectures about by his mentor, the Yaqui shaman Don Juan Matus. Aberrations are, well, if you're thinking of in photography, aberrations are when you get weird light reflections, blur, bokeh, B-O-K-K-E, although that is actually cherished apparently in Japan. It's just a certain pattern of light reflection that some people find pretty. But aberrations are getting things that are not, I mean, if you're going to make a wheel, you want a round wheel. An aberration would be an oval wheel. Could you imagine going down the highway at 60 miles an hour on a wheel that is out of balance? That is why you take it to the tire shop and get it, balanced, the wheel balancing machine. Because at high speeds, any slight ovalness to your wheel will result in a shimmy. In other words, the wheel will feel like it's going to shake off the car. It's very uncomfortable. So if you take the same concept of an out-of-balance wheel to an out-of-balance personality, you have got an aberrant personality, one that is unbalanced. The world is infested with these kind of aberrations. If you have witnessed it in yourself, or you have witnessed it in others, I don't imagine there's anyone on the planet who hasn't. Sometimes you think there's a sick pride they take in their aberration. But if it is sort of possessing you and you're watching it from the inside and you're seeing your personality become weird, can you laugh at it? Or, I mean, if it keeps going on too long, it's again going on too long. And then repetitiveness, it keeps coming back because you want something different. And in the end, the aberrations are a sickness, a disease. The aberration, we were calling it the aberrant toad. One time when I was in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, there was a bear who was in a fenced-off area. It wasn't a cage. It was just a fenced enclosure. Not a huge area, but, it was large. And it was winter, and there was snow on the ground. And the bear found a corner of the fenced enclosure, and this was his aberration. His aberration was to do the bear dance. So what the bear dance was, you could see the bear. You could see the bear doing a movement. He was doing a dance. It was a step dance. He would step here and step back. Was it a two-step? And maybe it was about a three-step. He was doing a three-step, and it was three steps, and he had done it so long that he had bored holes into the snow cover so that where he put his bear paws, kept going into the same hole. The snow was perhaps 8 inches deep, maybe a little bit more. He was a big bear, and I didn't get too close. But he did it, and I watched him for, maybe 20 minutes. He did not leave that corner of this huge enclosure. Well, it wasn't huge, like it wasn't like the size of the state of Montana. But it wasn't like a small cage the size of your dining room. He had a vast amount of area to hang out in, but he stayed in one little corner, and he did the 3-step. This is an aberration. If a human did that and did it every day over and over again, you would say, this person has got an aberration. If you were going to clinically examine the person, you would say this person needs to see a psychiatrist. Don Juan Matus, the Yaqui shaman, said aberrations were noted in people of his lineages in the past. A lineage, a shamanic lineage, is basically people who were involved with the same culture, maybe. Culture, the same kind of, well, he was a Yaqui shaman, so he called himself and his lineages sorcery, and he didn't mean it from a Christian perspective where a sorcerer was kind of a devil worshiper, a Luciferian, a Satanist. No. And I don't think he meant, in today's language, in 2019, people use source as a replacement for the word where everything comes from. Although that might fit. It just doesn't, the word source wasn't being used in those days the way it's being used today. If you listen to various YouTubers talking about things like 5D, the fifth dimension, ascension, expanded consciousness. No, but he did call himself a sorcerer, and he said he belonged to what was known as the new sorcerers. He had a word, it was something like the old sorcerers, and he said the new sorcerers were of the same lineages. I keep saying plural, but it's not true. Lineage. I want to say lineage, and my voice comes out lineages. It's a mystery. Is it an aberration? To me, it's an aberration when there's one lineage, the sorcery that they were involved with, because they all learned sorcery by being apprenticed to other shamans or sorcerers who came before. But I keep getting plural. It could be, the new sorcerers are a new lineage and, they came from the old sorcerers. They called themselves the new seers. Seer is another word that I would have to go back to Castaneda and Don Juan Matus to try and get an idea. He talked about stories that you could hear that would illustrate a point, and he called these points the abstract core. But the stories were basically of these shamans. Even shaman is incorrect. It would be something that an anthropologist might label these people as. One of them was known as Elias, and he was an actor. And there was some other ones that were, in Don Juan Matus's eyes, aberrations, because they used their they just went so far in their aberration, they became something different and something that he didn't want to become. So it was the old breed, and the new seers looked at them and said it was aberration. It was aberration. But when Don Juan Matus was looking at the young Carlos Castaneda, who, early 20s perhaps. He said, "You, Carlos, are full of aberrations just as much as the old seers of my lineages." Because he said, well, it was basically your brainwashing growing up in the United States in that time period. Everything to do with the culture. That is enough of the explanation for aberration. We were trying to get to how does one balance a tire. You go to a tire shop with a tire balancing machine, and they've got little lead weights that get stuck on in the appropriate places by a skilled tradesman. A skilled psychiatrist, can they fix an aberration of the personality? They apparently could not fix Dr. Hannibal Lecter. That is all. Thank you for listening.